Hello, everyone. Hello, Dr. Shikon. My name is Holmes, presenting fourth grade math on decimal numbers in partial fulfillment of EDAD 904, leading K-12 online environment. This assignment is a design of an online learning resources K through 12. I am in the education leadership with Bowie State University. This lesson emphasizes big ideas, beginning with the whole and expanding to include all parts. The objective of this lesson will focus on comparing two decimals to the tenths and hundredths by reasoning about their sizes. Students will be able to recognize that comparisons are valid only when the two decimals refer to the same whole. Additionally, students will be able to record the comparison using inequalities and will be able to justify and explain their reasonings using models, pictures, numbers, and words. The resources in this lesson would include both concrete and virtual manipulatives. Examples are Freya model, templates, fraction to decimal design, large and small 100 grids, and base 10 blocks. Additionally, resources would include open number lines, coins on number lines, place value charts, etc. The use of both concrete and virtual manipulatives would help students in building mental models and increase knowledge transfer. This would also allow students to gain connections to real life problems. The method of delivery are PowerPoints with a voice over it and YouTube videos on decimals. Assessment will be formative checkpoints with the use of rubrics, and students will be able to collaborate by using Flipgrid to respond to their writing prompts. Math Talk. The students will be able to tell all they know about decimals based on previous lessons, and they also will be able to use video links from YouTube to compare decimals using tenths and 100 grid in their comparison. Students will be able to watch the video and be able to type what they learned from the video with respect to what they know before in the response sheet given to them. The video-based scenario will be used to illustrate problem solving that will foster creative solutions and metacognition. Launch and engage. The teacher will have students work in pairs with their table partners. They will be able to compare 0 and 4/10 and 24/100. This would allow students to solve and create products by working in pairs. The teachers will use questions to guide their thinking and to support the students in constructing their responses and new knowledge as well. Questions will be, how do you know which one is greater? What strategy are you using? Are you using place value? If you're using place value, where would you start from? Can you use the 100 grid to explain your answer? How would it look on a number line? How is your friend's comparison different from yours? Why? Why would someone think that 0 and 4/10 is less than 0 and 24/100, even though 0 and 24/100 has more digits? Students will be able to use reasoning, they'll be able to use accountable talk and standard for math practices. Students will be watched even as they construct viable arguments and be able to critique each other's reasoning. Students are expected to reason abstractly and quantitatively with the use of visual models as necessary, or use of money as needed. Explore, explore, explore. Here, the students would explore by working with their table partners and use the Freya model to represent decimals in 4 different ways. Decimals will be represented as a fraction using the number line. Students will be able to design their 100 grids to be able to show the decimal given to them, and will be able to write it in words as well. Students will use the drag, even to drag the bars into the grid that represent the given decimal. The teacher will model, and the students would work on the slide deck to make sense of problems and to solve as they explore. Teachers will also work around to observe the students, dialogue with students to help them construct their own knowledge. Students will also be able to use inequalities, signs to compare decimals. Students, even on this slide, will be able to drag the different decimal tiles into the respective location on the number line. Students also will select a tile from above and be able to complete the inequalities below. They will be able to tell which tile is greater than a specific decimal given, or given a specific decimal number, which tile is less or greater. The students would also be able to tell from the list which of the tiles is the smallest or the least of it all, or which of the tile is closest to 5 and 5/10. The students would experience different practices as they navigate through this. Practice, practice. Have students work in pairs and small groups to complete comparing decimal tables using the worksheets. The worksheets actually exemplify the work on the Freya model, where students are able to represent fractions and decimals in 4 different ways. By the use of open number line, they will be able to order decimals from least to greatest. Students will use place value to determine which decimal is closest to a given decimal and be able to justify their reasoning. Teachers' role in this lesson is rooted in interaction and dialogue with the students. As the teacher circulates the room to see how students are interacting even with the tools, using accountable talk, constructing meaning to the problems, engaging in viable and arguments, and critiquing each other's reasoning. Students also will be able to apply known strategies to other decimals. For example, students will be able to explain how a number could be less than another, even though the number has more digits. For example, 3 and 2/10 versus 3 and 1800. Students will be able to create open number line and place decimals in order from least to greatest, or from greatest to least, in order to compare. Students will also continue to practice representing decimals in 4 different ways using another chart aside from the Freya model. In this particular exercise, students will be able to drag matching cards to the appropriate place. Students will use speech to text option to record a justification for one of their matches as well. They will be able to tell if the fraction is in decimal form, or write a word form for the decimals, be able to tell the decimal that matches a fraction form or the one on the decimal grid, even using money as well. And also, students will be able to place appropriate number line or decimal that is on a location on a particular number line. Students will work in groups and pick different slides of their choice to solve problems. Teachers will continue to circulate the room to see how students are constructing meaning and using questions to guide their thinking. The slide goes on. Let's summarize. The teacher will focus on the core math to emphasize and be able to explain different misconceptions that the children might have had. Decimals and fractions can both be represented with visual models such as base 10 blocks, 100 grids, and number lines. They are both representing part of a whole that is defined in this instance as 100. Based on teachers' observation of students' work, the teacher will decide on one or two problems that will best highlight the core math. Intervention. Challenges and misconceptions will be clarified. Students may be unaware of the relationships between word names or decimals, or decimal notions and decimal fractions. Looking at universal support, considerations for students with learning differences will be exercised. Students may need to rely on visual or concrete representations with decimals and decimal fractions. Considerations will be given to emerging bilingual students while reinforcing the word names of decimals to help students write the decimal notation and decimal fractions and the use of the vocabulary words as well. In closing this lesson, students will be able to respond to prompts in their math journals. What are the different ways to represent decimals? Students will be encouraged to write or create a story problem comparing two decimals of choice using real life experience. And also, children will be able to share their response using Flipgrid, titled Fourth Decimal Writing Prompts, in their journal. The Flipgrid would allow the students to record their responses and in order to communicate and collaborate. This will foster group cooperation skills. Finally, students will complete an assessment which will mirror the objectives and the learning in this lesson. The assessment will be scored using a 4-point grid criteria. The activities in this lesson promote active learning because the lessons are aligned and student-centered, and the teacher is a facilitator of learning. And the lesson is tailored to meet the student's readiness to learn. This is a discovery learning that is constructive and active. The learners are provided with opportunities to launch, explore new understanding that entails hands-on and make connections that is real to individual and to real life. The resources encourage multiple modes of representation, provide experience while encouraging reflection and metacognition. Thank you.